joining in. It's a very important session today. First of all, it's my first international live session, and it's an honor, absolute honor, to go live with author Taetrece Harrison. Author Taetrece Harrison is an attorney by the day, and she loves to pen poetries and short stories at night. And her debut book, Bitch Hunt, is anthology of 5 stories, and these are the stories that will leave you enraged and shook. Bitch Hunt is certainly creating ripples in the bookstagram community around the globe, and that's why we'll be talking to author Taetrece Harrison about her book Bitch Hunt. How are
I'm
you?
doing well. How are you doing this morning? This afternoon, evening for you and morning for me.
It's like 12 hours of gap between us, and I'm so happy that I'm doing this live session. Yours will be my first international live session, and it is an immense, like, you can see how excited I am, and you've gone through the questions also, so you know how excited I am to talk to you, that this is going to be one of the most anticipated live sessions that I'm doing. And it deserves all the noise because of the book that you've penned. I am in love with it. I remember this the second time I revisited it. The first time I did it, I was actually going through a phase, and I told you about that.
Yeah.
But the second time I went through, I was misty-eyed, I was enraged, and I was like, God, this is going to be the live session for me, and I'm so excited to talk to you. You can see it. You can literally.
Thank you.
I'm really so happy talking to you right now, and these stories have to be told. It was important that we know about it, because on the other side of the world, I could like I told you, I mean, in the questionnaire which I sent, I had rated about this particular incident would happen. And ma'am, do you want to settle your phone?
Wait, say that again. I'm sorry.
Do you want to settle your phone?
But the poem?
Your phone, smartphone.
Yeah. I'm on the phone. I'm just trying to get a little situated because
Yeah.
I was on
One
my
second, wait.
laptop. So wait, give me 1 second. I'm trying to put it in this. There we go. So
Yeah.
that way I don't have to.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Sorry about that.
No worries, no worries.
That's what happens when you go live. Sorry about that.
That's okay. I'm so used to all of this now.
All right. I'm trying to I have this thing where I can put it on so I don't have to hold the phone, and that's what I was trying to do, but it's not working, so that's fine. It won't work. Oh, there it is. Something like that.
Yeah, done.
Yeah.
Right. So, on the other side of the world, I can only read these stories, but what you have done is a lot inspiring. So I want you to tell us a bit about your book, Bitch Hunt.
Okay. So Bitch Hunt is a narrative nonfiction, and it's about 5 Black female attorneys. It's about how they are personally attacked for who they are or who people perceive them to be. And then I take you through each chapter. So each chapter is about a different person. And I take you through each one of their stories and how they try to deal with that situation or what happens with them when they're being personally attacked, even at this level of being an attorney.
Right. So, ma'am, how long did it take for you to pen this, for you to research on the other 4 cases? Because I'm sure there are so many cases out there that you had to, bring it down to these 4. So, how long did it take for you to research?
So a combination of 2 years in order to write the book. So I would say the research and the writing was all about 2 years. I did find other people whose stories were similar, but I narrowed it down to those 4. because I felt like they were similar to my story, because just so the audience know, I'm in chapter 1. And so I tried to find stories that were similar to my story. And so that's how I narrowed it down to the other 4 women that was in the book.
Right. And talking about the publishing process, I am sure you might have faced certain hurdles, or some kind of resistance. So did you face any of that?
I did. It was hard. First of all, I'm a new author, and I don't know about it how it is in India, but here we have 5 top publishing companies, and so they're the gatekeepers of what type of books come out. They dictate to the public what books, are the books that should be read. And so they tend to want more the little fruity kind of stuff, meaning romance. And not that I have anything against romance, but there's something to be said about about nonfiction books, because, like you said, they're true and they're stories that need to be told. So I did get pushback a lot from a lot of those agents or a lot of the publishers. It wasn't a story that they didn't necessarily think that was going to be something that people would be interested in. And so I had to take my own journey by becoming an independent author and then publishing the book myself, because it just wasn't something that the top 5 was interested in publishing.
Right. So, ma'am, I have certainly gone through the comments under my review and below my review, and it just everybody is been saying that this is an important read. I'm adding it to my TBR, and it's quite a powerful book. And thank you for sharing this. So I'm really happy that people are responding in that way. But how has the response been so far for you?
I would say that overall the response has been positive. There have been a few times where, because the title of the book is Bitch Hunt, and so it's solicited a few negativity. I would say probably a little bit more from Black women, because they just automatically assume, because it says bitch, that means that I'm calling people bitches, and that's not what it's about. It's a play on witch hunt, and it's about Black women. So instead of saying witch hunt, I took the W off and I put a B on. But instead of, so sometimes, you said you're not supposed to judge a book by its cover or title. Sometimes people are judging it by I would say more by the title than the cover. But it's definitely not a negative book. It's intended to solicit understanding and also, feelings of sympathy for these people, empathy, sympathy, and also to understand, even at this level, you could still be subjected to so many different things. It's presumed because you're an attorney, you're untouchable and things like that, but that's not true. And it's all true because of the fact that these are Black women. And that's basically what it's about: racism, and it's about sexism, misogyny. That's what it's about.
True, true. Um, so I don't want to give any sort of spoilers here, but all the stories have touched me, and like I said, I was misty eyed. Even right now talking about it is just, I am a very emotional person and empathetic at that. And I can understand, get the vibes of a person instantly, even if I am chatting with them on Instagram or WhatsApp. So when I read that book, I just, even going through the highlights was kind of giving me those vibes. And I don't want to give spoilers here, but Judge Stokes and Rhonda's story. So, do you think that could have ended in their favor if they had persisted? I really wanted it.
Yeah, I would say that, of course, I don't want to tell their stories as well, but I think with Stokes, as you know, there was some personal stuff that happened with her, and I think that then it came to the point where certain things just didn't matter anymore. It just wasn't important. But I think had she
Right.
probably persisted, and I think had she been able to maybe tell her side of the story, I think things would have been different, or at least there would have been she would have been heard, because really she hadn't really been heard. All you got was one side of the story. You didn't get the narrative from her side of the story. And then
Right.
I would say the same thing also with Rhonda. I think it's the same thing. You heard a little bit because there was a little bit of a press conference, but that came more from her attorney. That didn't really come from her. So you still didn't get that. But I agreed that I think had they persisted, both of them, I think things would have turned out differently for the both of them, or at least you would have had some documented statements from them, because like I said, there really isn't anything from either side. A little bit snippets, but not a full on statement of what happened.
Right. So, ma'am, amongst all the stories, which one do you think was more emotionally draining for you?
I would say Rhonda's story. I would say definitely hers. I would say mine too. Um, Put it this way: when I wrote this book, each story was very. It's taken me a while to be able to actually talk about it without me not feeling charged up. I mean, I still get emotional like you, but not to that same, like it's not at the forefront. So I'm comfortably able to talk about it. Whereas before, it was tough. I would finish writing one and I would have to take a day or two just to be able to recenter myself, to be able to go on to the next, to the next story.
Right. Now that you talk about it, there are images zapping through my mind, and I am misty-eyed right now. Uh, uh, I have read Black literature, been reading it for the longest time since childhood, and I the kind of I'm going to read this question because it's very long. So I have read Black literature, and we've had campaigns like Black Lives Matter, but the mentality hasn't changed. So every day I see some or the other video that is popping up on Twitter, which shows, the true side, the double standards of the society. And I remember my brother-in-law, this is a story which has come to me after I got married, and he was working in IBM, and he was called from India. He was upfront given a green card. He was staying there, and it was all good for him, and he was doing very well. So once he came across a case on the streets where against racism, he stood up, and it was all over the news. And he was persistent, but something happened. Something happened, and he was traumatized. He had literally locked himself up. That is what I got to know. And he had security guards outside his house,
Oh, wow.
and he had literally locked up in like a box-sized house, and he was working remotely. No clue what happened there, but that is what we were being told by his mother. And so it's like you cannot stand up against them. They will force you to give up everything, and yet you all persisted, won over them, all five of you, in your own way. And of course, all of you have huge respect. I have huge respect
Thank
for
you.
all of you, and for you, because you came out, you spoke about it, you wrote about it. The stories are reaching other parts of the world. I'm sitting here in India, in Mumbai, talking about this book, and that's like a privilege for me, because had you not written about it, I wouldn't have gotten a chance to read
Right.
it, review it, and pass it to others. So, but my question here is, this is a very long question, but
It's
my
okay.
question here, what it is that you think that kept you and the other women going? What is it that made you not give up?
Well, the thing is, and thank you for the question. I think what it is as Black women, we already know that we have a high burden. We already know that we're going to be subjected to things that our white female counterparts won't be. We know that Black women are always last, but we're the one always wanting to, we have to hold everything together. So I think that's why we persisted, or in, like you said, in our own way, because we're already used to it. We already know we have to carry this burden, and we know that if we don't, no one else will, and we know that we're doing it so we could clear the way from others behind us. So I think that's why we persisted in each our own individual way, because we can't. I don't know if you watch oh shoot, Trevor Noah. He was on the Daily Show, and he thanked black women at the end, and everything he said about, black women know that they can't give up. They know what happens when things don't go right. And so I think that's why we all did what we did, because we know what it means when things don't go right. We are always going to be the ones to be the trailblazers to get things done. We carry a lot. We shouldn't have to, but that's I don't want to say that's how it is, but that's what it is at the moment.
Right. I don't think so I've mentioned this question here, but this keeps coming back to me that when I read the stories, I realized that the modus operandi of these people, the oppressors, was so similar that they would go out of the way, defame, make illusionary scenarios. And why do you think, why are they doing this? I mean, can't they just live and let others live in peace?
I think that it's a conversation that I have with people all the time. It's jealousy, it's envious, and those things are people don't believe they're real, but they're real, and they can manifest themselves in these stories. And the crazy thing is it could be the person. Some of them were people's, colleagues. Some of them were people who, were already successful in their own right, but they're like, oh, wait a minute, you're doing a little bit too much. I need you to stay, it's okay if you do this, but you can't do this. You want to keep a person at that level. It's that fear of that those people feel that maybe they're going to not be relevant because you're going to be relevant. And instead of people seeing it, a win for me is a win for you, it's a win for everybody. Everybody doesn't see it like that. They'd rather you be held back and you not move forward because they feel like they need to move forward. So I think it's this mindset. It's an insecurity situation, because why would you be threatened by someone else's success? You should celebrate that person's success and not necessarily mirror yourself behind that person, but be like, okay, well, I want to be on that, on that successful track too. Let me see what I can do to also be on that success. But a lot of people just don't see it that way. And I agree with you. I don't understand why people can't let other people live. I'm definitely a proponent of that. I definitely celebrate my friends' successes and want them to be successful. But I would never want to say, well, let me secretly try to figure out some kind of way to, to sabotage this person because, I have my own insecurities.
Right. I sincerely don't get this sort of mentality because I'm a very spiritual person and I want people to grow intrinsically as well as in their professional fields. And if someone is growing, I would only celebrate their success and not, try to pull them down. And I don't know, I've seen this kind of mentality here as well, even Bookstagram community as well. It's like a small community that operates like book bloggers, but then here also there is a competition. Here also people think, like pulling others down, but I don't get it. I sincerely don't get it.
Me either.
Just help each other grow, correct each other's grounds. What are we here for? Right.
Right.
And talking about the book again, I want to know, how did you filter out that you wanted to talk about these 4 cases plus yours? There has to be some sort of a filtering process that you went through.
So I'll just give a little bit of my story. I was falsely arrested. And so I take everybody through my story about, and I had to go all the way to trial. There were a lot of people here in the New Orleans area that actually didn't know I went to trial because I kept a lot of this stuff to myself. Just for the simple fact I needed to be silent until it was time for me to then, to talk about it. Because if I had been speaking out about it, I think things maybe would have went different. It was, in this case, it was better to be silent until it was time for me to speak. And so I painstakingly, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine actually, and she said, you know what, I think you should write a book. And I was like, you're crazy. I'm not, why am I writing a book? And she was like, nobody. I said, nobody's not going to want to read that story. She said, yes, they will. But she said, but what you need to do is you need to find other women whose story is similar to mine. I said, they don't have anybody else there that went through this. And then to prove her wrong, I started researching. And then I was like, wait a minute. And I was like, it was like one after another, one after another. And so there were certain criteria I was looking for because it had to be similar. Just like you said, each story was like, wow, it's so similar. So that's how I was able to narrow it down to the four people, because the other four women, was because of the fact that they were very, very similar. I had like a list of everybody I wrote down, and then I just ticked the people off because there were certain things that I was looking for. And so that's how I narrowed it down to those four women.
Right. So it's always said, right, that sometimes spirit guides come to you and they kind of prompt certain things and make those happen. And this book was sort of meant to happen. And that's why, you know, I see it. I'm even getting goosebumps right now talking to you. And it is a powerful read. It is a very important read, and I want each and every person, you know, to go out of the way and read this book and understand it. So I want to request you, rather this is a request and a more than a question, that can we expect a second book in this series?
Actually, I am working on a second book right now. It's about a little different, but still in the legal world, judicial corruption. And I'm talking about judges that have been removed from their duties as a judge for various different things. And the interesting thing, chapter 1, I'm finishing up chapter 1. I called the attack on this particular Black judge a bitch hunt. So I'm using the play on bitch hunt in that book, but then I make some distinctions through the chapter as to why it may not necessarily be a bitch hunt. So I thought that was pretty cool that I referenced book 1 in book 2. So yeah, that book, I'm hoping for it to be out by the end of this year, but we'll see, because I'm at the beginning stages of getting it of writing it. But I'm giving myself like a timeline to kind of be done with it.
So that was sort of my last question. I really don't want a conversation to end, but we'll have to stop here. And I hope to read your next book also. And I am going to vehemently promote this particular book, Witch Hunt. And thank you so much for this book. Thank you so much. I am blessed. I am privileged. And you know, I left my corporate job and corporate media industry job, and I'm so thankful that I'm here. I get to talk to you. I get to read books of you know, authors like you. So that's sort of another blessing that I have in my life, because I took that strong decision, you know.
Right.
And so I'm really glad that I got to read your book, and I'm talking about your book to you right now from other side of the world. I'm sure gonna promote this at a level I can, in whatever ways I can. And before we sign out, guys, that's author Taetrece Harrison. She's written the book Witch Hunt, and this book is about 5 women black women attorneys who have faced injustice at different junctures of their career. And when you read their stories, you are going to be so enraged at the sort of injustice meted out at them. I want you guys to pick up this book and read it. It is a must read. You are going to be, it's a stunner. It's an eye opener. It's going to blow. And I sincerely want you guys to go ahead, pick up this book and read it.
Thank you.